If you have ever dreamed of living closer to nature, if you have ever imagined producing your own honey, if you feel that modern life is pulling you too far away from what really matters, then stay with me because this talk may change the way you see the land forever. Today I am not only speaking about beekeeping, I am speaking about a way of life, a modern, sustainable, and deeply human path. Behind me, you see this apiary. But this is not just a workplace. It is a living ecosystem, a balance between humans, insects, plants, soil, sun, rain, and time. I stand here not only as a beekeeper, but also as someone who works the land, who understands tractors, who lives alongside livestock, and who believes that the future of agriculture must be ecological, intelligent, and respectful. If you are watching this and thinking, maybe I could do this, to hold on to that thought, because every real beekeeper started exactly there. Let's begin with something many beginners underestimate: the location of the apiary. Beekeeping does not start when you buy bees. It starts when you observe the land. A good apiary needs morning sunlight, protection from strong winds, access to clean water, and a natural diversity of flowering plants. Your bees must live in harmony with their environment, not in conflict with it. Modern ecological beekeeping is not about forcing productivity. It is about creating the right conditions so the colony can develop naturally, strongly, and healthily. When the environment is right, the bees respond with strength, balance, and resilience. And this is where real beekeeping begins. Another important decision is the type of hive you choose. Langstroth, dad ant, lay ends, different systems, different philosophies. But no matter the model, the principle should always be the same: respect the natural behavior of the colony. We are not factory managers. We are not controlling machines. We are working with living beings that have their own intelligence, organization, and rhythm. A modern beekeeper uses technology and tools, yes, but never forgets that the bees come first. Not all bees are the same either. There are breeds that are calmer, breeds that are more resistant, breeds that are better adapted to cold climates, and others that tolerate heat and drought much better. Choosing the right bees is not about maximizing honey at all costs. It is about selecting colonies that belong to your environment, that support biodiversity, and that strengthen your local ecosystem. This is where beekeeping becomes something bigger than production. It becomes responsibility. If you are still listening, it means something inside you already understands this connection, even if you can't fully explain it yet. And that is exactly how this journey begins. Now, let's talk about something that is both practical and symbolic: the beekeeper's clothing. The protective suit, gloves, and veil are not just safety measures, they are a statement of respect for the bees and for yourself. When you wear them, you create a boundary of trust. You are careful not to harm them, and they can work without fear. Modern beekeepers often complement traditional suits with lighter, breathable materials and even small cameras or sensors to monitor the hives. Technology should always serve life, not dominate it. To begin, you will need basic tools: a smoker to calm the bees, a hive tool for inspection, and a brush to gently move bees without causing harm. For the beginner, simplicity is key. Overloading with gadgets can distract from the most important lesson: understanding the colony. Everything you do should be deliberate and calm. Every gesture matters. The bees feel your presence and respond accordingly. One of the most exciting parts of beekeeping is harvesting honey. But modern ecological practices teach us patience. You only take what the bees can spare. If you plan to scale, even slightly, you will need proper facilities for extraction and bottling. This doesn't have to be industrial. A clean, organized workspace is enough. Hygiene, order, and respect for the product are the pillars of professional work. And remember, your honey tells a story: the flowers your bees visited, the seasons they endured, the care you provided. Treat it as something sacred, not merely as a commodity. Many beginners overlook this. Beekeeping is regulated for good reasons. Understanding local laws about hive registration, honey labeling, and disease control protects both you and your bees. Sustainable beekeeping is not just an ecological choice. It is a legal and ethical responsibility. When you respect the rules, you ensure the health of your colonies, your neighbors, and the integrity of your craft. Every element of beekeeping, from clothing to hive choice, equipment, extraction, and legislation, forms a web of responsibility. Modern ecological beekeeping is about observation first, action second. It's about working with nature, not against it. It's about combining tradition with modern knowledge and care with innovation. Every beekeeper starts as a beginner, but every action they take shapes the future of the bees and the land. Look at these hives. Every one of them contains thousands of lives, thousands of stories, and thousands of lessons. And the more you observe, the more you understand that beekeeping is a mirror. It reflects patience, persistence, humility, and respect. If you feel inspired, remember this is just the beginning. Stay with me, because in upcoming sections we will explore even more details about equipment, hive management, and seasonal care. By the end of this journey, you will not only know the basics, you will feel what it means to be part of a living ecosystem. Now let's continue with more practical aspects of beekeeping. The clothing you wear is your first tool. A well-fitted suit, gloves, and veil not only protect you, but also show respect to your bees. When you move calmly and deliberately, the colony senses your presence and reacts with harmony. Modern beekeepers often use lightweight materials, ventilation systems, and even sensors to monitor hive health. The key is balanced. Technology assists, but never replaces observation. Next is the essential equipment every beginner must have. Smoker to gently calm the bees during inspections. Hot tool for lifting frames and managing the hive. Bee brush to move bees without harm. Containers for honey collection. Simplicity is crucial. Too many tools can distract from understanding your colony's behavior. Every action should be deliberate. Every gesture matters. When it comes to honey extraction, patience is your ally. Take only what the bees can spare. Respect their work and their needs. If you set up a small extraction area, ensure it is clean and organized. Proper hygiene and order reflect professionalism and care. Remember, each jar of honey tells a story. The flowers visited, the seasons endured, and the attention given by the beekeeper. Treat it as a living product, not a commodity. Understanding legislation is equally important. Register your hives, follow labeling rules, and comply with disease control regulations. This protects your bees, your neighbors, and your business. Ecological beekeeping is about responsibility, ethical, legal, and environmental. Respecting the law is part of respecting life itself. Now, let's discuss the modern philosophy of ecological beekeeping. Observation first, action second. Work with nature, not against it. Blend traditional knowledge with modern innovation. Every decision affects the colony, the land, and your future as a beekeeper. Every beginner will face challenges, but every careful choice strengthens the ecosystem and your connection to it. Look at these hives. Each one contains thousands of lives, intricate patterns, and lessons about patience, humility, and persistence. The more you watch, the more you realize that beekeeping mirrors life itself. Patience, respect, and observation guide every action. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a like if you are ready to start this journey. This is only the beginning. Stay with me as we explore deeper into hive management, seasonal care, and advanced equipment in upcoming sections. By the end of this hour, you will not only know the basics, you will feel what it truly means to be part of a living ecosystem. Managing your hives requires consistency, attention, and respect. Each hive is unique. Some colonies are strong and productive. Others are delicate and cautious. Learning to read the signs, the movement of bees, the shape of the comb, the presence of brood is the heart of successful beekeeping. Modern beekeepers balance tradition with innovation. They use record typing, seasonal calendars, and even simple digital monitoring to track hive health and growth. But no tool replaces observation and intuition. Seasonal planning is crucial. Spring is a time of preparation. Inspect hives carefully, ensure the queen is healthy, and provide supplemental feeding if necessary. Summer is the season of abundance. Flowers bloom, colonies expand, and honey stores grow. Autumn is reflection and conservation. Prepare hives for winter, protect them from pests, and ensure enough food remains. Winter is quiet observation, minimal disturbance, only essential checks. The colony rests, storing energy for the next cycle. Following the rhythm of the seasons connects you to the natural flow of life. It teaches patience, humility, and a deeper understanding of nature. Every beekeeper, beginner or experienced, must also consider the long-term vision. Plan your apiary layout carefully. Consider accessibility for inspections and honey collection, protection from weather, and the diversity of local flora. This is not only practical, it is ecological. The health of the land and the colony are intertwined. Your role is to guide and protect, not dominate. You become a guardian, a teacher, and a learner at the same time. Every hive tells a story. Every frame, every comb, every buzzing colony teaches a lesson. Respect the bees, understand their language, and your journey as a beekeeper will flourish. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a like to join this journey of modern, sustainable beekeeping. Stay tuned for future sessions where we will explore detailed equipment reviews, seasonal hive management techniques, specific bee breeds and their unique characteristics, advanced extraction methods, legal updates and industry insights. By the end of this series, you will not just know how to start. You will feel what it truly means to be part of a living ecosystem. And you will be ready to take your first steps with confidence and care. There is something deeply transformative that happens when you spend enough time among the hives. At first, you hear only noise. Then, slowly, you begin to hear meaning. You recognize calm, tension, strength, weakness. You learn when a colony is thriving and when it needs help. This connection cannot be learned from books alone. It is built with time, presence, and respect. Many people arrive to beekeeping searching for honey. But those who stay because they discover something deeper: purpose. Working with bees changes the way you look at agriculture, at technology, and even at progress. A modern beekeeper does not reject innovation. Instead, they use it wisely: solar-powered fences, moisture sensors, temperature monitoring, lightweight tools, efficient extractors. These are not enemies of tradition. They are allies when used with intelligence and ethics. Beekeeping fits naturally within a modern ecological farm. Bees improve pollination for crops. Healthy landscapes improve honey quality. Responsible grazing improves floral diversity. Smart use of machinery protects the soil. Everything becomes connected. Apiculture. Tractors, livestock, soil, water, biodiversity. This is not romanticism. This is functional sustainability. If you are listening carefully, you may start to realize that this path is not about escaping modern life. It is about redefining it. It is about building a future where productivity and respect for life can exist together. Many beginners ask, how many hives should I start with? The honest answer is fewer than you think. Start small, learn deeply, grow slowly. A strong foundation is always better than fast expansion without understanding. Every inspection is a dialogue. You open the hive. You observe. You interpret. You decide. This rhythm develops discipline, patience, and responsibility. These qualities do not stay in the apiary. They follow you into every aspect of your life. And if at this point you feel that this message resonates with you, that this way of thinking connects with something personal, then I invite you clearly and honestly subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Not for numbers, but because this space is being built for people who truly care about doing things the right way. This journey does not end with one talk. It grows with every season, every question, every experience shared. In future sessions, we will go deeper. We will talk specifically about different hive models and when to use each. We will explore detailed protective clothing and professional-grade equipment. We will analyze real extraction rooms and how to design them properly. We will study bee behavior, disease prevention, queen management, and seasonal strategies. We will even discuss the real economics side of beekeeping, without myths and without illusions. But everything begins here, with respect, with observation, with intention. Because beekeeping is not something you do. It is something you become. There is also a truth that many videos never show you: beekeeping is beautiful, but it is not always easy. You will lose colonies. You will doubt your decisions. You will face weather that you cannot control, flowering seasons that fail, and moments where you feel you have done everything right and still things go wrong. And yet this is exactly where the real beekeeper is born. Because in those moments you learn responsibility. You learn humility. You learn that nature is not something to dominate, but something to understand. This is why ecological beekeeping is not a trend. It is a mindset. It forces you to ask better questions. How can I support the bees instead of exploiting them? How can I improve the environment instead of exhausting it? How can I produce with dignity instead of pressure? Modern tools help, yes. Data helps. Mechanization helps. But ethics must always guide the hand that uses them. When you manage hives with this philosophy, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Your colonies become more resilient. Your honey gains character. Your work gains meaning. People who consume your honey will feel it. Not because of marketing, but because authenticity always leaves a trace. And this is why this channel exists. Not to create viral content, but to build knowledge, to build respect, to build a community of people who want to work with nature, not against it. If you are still here listening, you are already part of that community. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a like if you believe that agriculture, apiculture, and rural life deserve a future that is intelligent, ethical, and sustainable. Because the future of beekeeping will not be built by those who seek shortcuts. It will be built by those who are willing to observe, learn, fail, improve, and persist. And in the next sessions, we will continue this path together. When you walk into an apiary with the right mindset, you stop being a visitor and start becoming a participant in something much larger than yourself. You begin to notice the small details, the rhythm of the flight, the subtle changes in sound, the way the bees respond to temperature, light, and even your own mood. This awareness transforms the way you approach every aspect of rural work. You start thinking differently about how you use machinery. You become more careful with how the soil is treated. You pay closer attention to water sources, to flowering cycles, to the impact of chemicals far beyond your own land. A modern ecological beekeeper understands that every decision creates consequences. Using fewer chemicals means healthier bees. Supporting local flora means stronger colonies. Choosing sustainable practices means long-term productivity instead of short-term gains. This way of working does not make you slower. It makes you wiser. Beekeeping teaches you to value time. Not the rush time of deadlines and pressure, but natural time. The time it takes for a colony to grow. The time it takes for nectar to transform into honey. The time it takes for experience to become true knowledge. Many people search for quick results. Few are willing to build something that lasts. And yet, everything truly valuable in agriculture is built slowly. If you are still listening, it means you understand that deep down. That is why this space exists. To offer clarity in a world full of shortcuts. To offer honest guidance instead of empty promises. To show the real path, demanding but deeply rewarding. Because beekeeping done correctly does not only produce honey. It produces balance. It produces awareness. It produces a different kind of future. And that future begins with people like you who choose to stay, to learn, and to care. There is a moment every beekeeper remembers. The first time you open a hive and feel no fear, only calm. The first time you recognize the queen without searching. The first time you taste honey from your own colonies and realize you did not simply harvest a product, you earned a relationship. These moments are not bought. They are built. Built through patience. Built through mistakes. Built through mornings when you wake early to check the weather, and evenings when you replay every inspection in your mind, wondering how to improve. This is why beekeeping cannot be separated from the rest of rural life. You begin to understand how flowering depends on rainfall, how soil health affects plant diversity, how livestock management influences the surrounding ecosystem, how the way you drive machinery, how you manage land, how you treat margins and wild areas, all of it eventually reaches the bees. A modern beekeeper does not work in isolation. They become a steward of a living system. And this is exactly what the world needs more of. People who understand interdependence. People who think long-term. People who value resilience over speed. If this message feels different from what you usually hear, that is intentional. Because real beekeeping is not about shortcuts. It is about commitment. It is about showing up even when the harvest is small. It is about continuing even after losses. It is about learning when things go wrong instead of giving up. And those who walk this path seriously are never truly beginners for long. They become observers, then practitioners, then guardians. This is not just about producing honey. This is about becoming part of something that existed long before us and must continue long after us. And if you are still here, still listening, still reflecting, then perhaps this path is not as distant from you as you once thought. There is also a responsibility that comes with knowledge. Once you understand what bees need, you can no longer ignore the impact of your choices. You begin to question the use of aggressive chemicals. You begin to protect wildflowers instead of removing them. You begin to value biodiversity not as a concept but as a daily practice. This is where beekeeping becomes leadership. Not leadership over bees, but leadership by example. When neighbors see healthy colonies, strong pollination, and consistent honey quality, they start asking questions. They start paying attention. They start considering change. And slowly, without conflict, without preaching, transformation begins. This is the power of doing things correctly. A single well-managed apiary can influence an entire landscape. A single committed beekeeper can influence an entire community. And every beginner who chooses the ecological path strengthens this movement. You do not need to be perfect to start. You only need to be honest with your intention. Learn, observe, adapt, improve. That is the real cycle of sustainable agriculture. Some days you will feel confident. Other days you will feel uncertain. Both are part of the process. Because growth does not happen in comfort. It happens in attention. The bees teach this without words. They show it in their organization, their resilience, their capacity to adapt without losing balance. If you allow yourself to learn from them, they will make you better, not only as a beekeeper, but as a person. And that is perhaps the most powerful truth of this path. Beekeeping does not just change how you work, it changes how you see the world. At some point, you stop measuring progress only in kilograms of honey. You begin to measure it in quieter ways. In the strength of your colonies after winter. In the calm behavior of your bees during inspections. In the balance you see between production and survival. This is when you understand that success in beekeeping is not about speed. It is about stability. Many people enter this world looking for quick results. But bees teach you a different logic. Slow growth, consistent care, and respect for natural rhythms always outperform impatience. A modern ecological beekeeper learns to design systems that support life instead of exhausting it. Planting flowering trees and hedgerows. Protecting water sources. Leaving space for wild nature. Reducing interventions when the colony is healthy. These choices may seem small, but together they create resilience. And resilience is the true wealth of any agricultural project. You also begin to understand that mistakes are not failures. They are information. Each loss teaches something. Each difficulty reveals what must be improved. This mindset transforms frustration into learning, and learning into long-term strength. This is why beekeeping is one of the most honest activities you can choose. It reflects your decisions clearly. You cannot hide behind marketing or excuses. The bees respond only to reality. And perhaps that is why so many people feel deeply connected to this path. Because in a world full of noise, beekeeping offers clarity. It strips things down to what truly matters. Attention, responsibility, consistency, and respect. If you stay on this path, you will not only produce honey, you will produce knowledge. You will produce balance. You will produce impact. And step by step, season by season, hive by hive, you will realize that this is no longer something you are learning. It is something you are becoming. There is a quiet discipline that develops over time in every serious beekeeper. You begin to plan ahead without forcing the future. You learn to prepare without controlling. You act with intention, but you accept uncertainty. This discipline changes the way you manage everything. Your schedule, your land, your resources, your expectations. You no longer chase productivity blindly. You design systems that can survive bad seasons, not only good ones. This is where modern beekeeping meets intelligent agriculture. You start asking smarter questions. How can I reduce stress on the colonies? How can I simplify my management without losing quality? How can I make my operation more efficient while remaining ethical? How can I use machinery in a way that protects soil, plants, and pollinators? The answers are never universal. They are personal. They depend on your land, your climate, your goals, your values. And that is why copying others rarely works long term. You must observe your own bees. You must study your own environment. You must build your own system. This is not weakness. This is mastery. When you reach this point, you realize something important. You are no longer following beekeeping. You are practicing it. You stop asking, "What should I do?" And you begin asking, "What are my bees telling me?" That shift changes everything. Because beekeeping is not controlled from textbooks. It is guided from presence, from consistency, from attention. And slowly, without you even noticing at first, you begin to earn something that cannot be bought. Trust. Trust from your colonies. Trust from other beekeepers. Trust from clients who taste the difference. Trust from yourself. That is when this work stops feeling like an experiment and starts feeling like a path. Over time, you begin to understand that beekeeping is not a hobby you visit when you have free time. It becomes a rhythm that shapes your days, your decisions, and even your mindset. You check the weather differently. You observe flowering periods more carefully. You pay attention to subtle changes in temperature, humidity, and wind. All because somewhere in your mind, the bees are always present. This is not obsession. This is awareness. And awareness is one of the most valuable skills any farmer, beekeeper, or rural professional can develop. A modern ecological operation is built on this awareness. You start designing your land with intention. You think about access paths for tractors that avoid disturbing hives. You plan grazing areas to protect flowering zones. You preserve natural margins instead of removing them. You begin to see your property not as separate activities, but as one integrated system. Apiculture, livestock, machinery, soil, vegetation, water, everything starts to work together instead of competing. This integration is not theory. It is practical, efficient, and deeply sustainable. And the most interesting part is this. When your system becomes healthier, your workload often becomes lighter. Fewer problems, fewer emergencies, fewer interventions. Because nature, when supported instead of forced, organizes itself better than any plan. Many beginners fear that ecological approaches mean lower productivity. In reality, the opposite is often true in the long term. Healthy colonies live longer. Stable systems require fewer corrections. Strong landscapes recover faster from stress. Sustainability is not weakness. It is intelligence applied over time. If you are still here, still listening, still engaged, then you are not just watching a video. You are already thinking like someone who belongs to this world. And that is exactly the point where transformation begins. There comes a stage where you begin to understand the deeper value of continuity. Not just continuity of production, but continuity of care. You start thinking in years instead of weeks. You imagine what your apiary will look like in 5 seasons. You consider what kind of landscape you want to leave behind, not only what you want to harvest. This long-term vision changes everything. You become more selective with your actions. You intervene less impulsively. You observe more before deciding. Because you understand that every intervention carries consequences that echo beyond the present moment. A mature beekeeper is not the one who does more. It is the one who knows when to do less. This is one of the hardest lessons to learn, and also one of the most powerful. Many beginners believe that constant manipulation leads to better results. But with time, you realize that excessive interference often creates more problems than it solves. Healthy colonies, placed in healthy environments, often require surprisingly little disturbance. This is the elegance of good beekeeping. Silent efficiency, invisible balance, consistent stability. And when you reach this understanding, something shifts again. You stop seeing bees as units of production. You begin to see them as partners in a shared system. You respect their intelligence. You admire their organization. You protect their conditions instead of forcing their behavior. This mindset does not make you weaker as a producer. It makes you stronger as a professional. Because your work becomes resilient. Your results become consistent. Your reputation becomes solid. People trust honey that comes from care. People respect practices that are honest. People recognize when something is built with integrity. That recognition does not come overnight. But when it comes, it lasts. And that is one of the most valuable things this path can offer. Not fast success, but durable credibility. If you continue walking this road, season after season, choice after choice, you will slowly realize that you are no longer trying to become a beekeeper. You already are one. There is also a quiet pride that grows with experience. Not pride in numbers, not pride in yield, but pride in craftsmanship. You begin to notice it when you open a hive and everything feels balanced. The brood is compact. The bees are calm. The frames are clean. The rhythm is healthy. That moment tells you more than any certificate ever could. This is when you realize that good beekeeping is not loud. It does not seek attention. It does not need to prove itself constantly. It simply works. And people notice. Neighbors begin to ask how you manage your colonies. Other beekeepers begin to observe your results. Consumers begin to trust your honey without needing persuasion. Because consistency speaks louder than promotion. A modern ecological beekeeper builds reputation slowly, through actions, not words. Through clean practices. Through respect for animals. Through transparency. Through patience. And that reputation becomes one of your strongest tools. You will also notice something else. Your mindset outside the apiary changes too. You become more patient in everyday life. More attentive to detail. More thoughtful before acting. More aware of cause and effect. Beekeeping does not stay in the hives. It follows you home. It follows you into your work. It follows you into your relationships. That is why many who start this path describe it as more than an activity. They describe it as a teacher. Not a teacher that speaks, but a teacher that shows. Every season shows you something. Every challenge shows you something. Every success shows you something. And slowly, without forcing it, you begin to understand one of the deepest truths of this craft. You do not master beekeeping. You grow alongside it. The bees change. The climate changes. The landscape changes. You change. The work never becomes static. It remains alive. And that is exactly why it remains meaningful. Because when something continues to teach you, when something continues to challenge you, when something continues to require your presence and your respect, it keeps you connected to reality. And in a world increasingly disconnected from natural processes, that connection is no longer just valuable. It is essential. At this stage, you begin to see the broader impact of your work. Your hives are no longer isolated units. They are part of a network that sustains the environment around you. Healthy bees pollinate local plants, which supports biodiversity. Strong colonies ensure your crops thrive without excessive chemicals. Thoughtful land management preserves soil, water, and natural habitats. Everything you do ripples outward. Your decisions affect not only your apiary but the surrounding ecosystem. This is why modern ecological beekeeping is not only a personal endeavor, it is a community responsibility. You also begin to notice how small habits accumulate over time. Regular inspections, careful record typing, and consistent maintenance create stability. Skipping steps may seem harmless, but over time small errors compound, affecting colony health and honey production. And that is the lesson that experience teaches. Discipline is more valuable than shortcuts. Observation is more important than assumptions. Respect is more impactful than control. Beekeeping also teaches emotional resilience. You experience losses, colonies that fail, seasons that underperform, unexpected weather events. But instead of discouragement, you learn to adapt. You learn to analyze, reflect, and improve. Every difficulty becomes a teacher. Every challenge strengthens your skill. Every setback reinforces your commitment to sustainable practices. When you fully embrace this perspective, your work transcends simple production. It becomes a craft, a responsibility, and a source of fulfillment. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a like if you are committed to building a future that is ethical, sustainable, and deeply connected to nature. The journey is long, but every step strengthens both you and your colonies. And with patience, care, and observation, you will see the rewards not just in honey, but in life itself. As you continue your journey, you begin to notice patterns you never saw before. The way bees communicate through movement, the subtle shifts in hive temperature, the rhythm of nectar flow through the seasons. These details tell a story if you are willing to listen. Each inspection becomes an exercise in mindfulness. You watch the bees work and you start to understand their needs without speaking. You sense when a colony is stressed, when it is healthy, and when it is ready to expand. This awareness spills over into all aspects of farm life. You manage livestock with more empathy. You rotate crops more intelligently. And you plan machinery use more thoughtfully. Every element of your farm begins to work in harmony because you are now attuned to patterns, cycles, and connections. Beekeeping teaches you patience, but it also teaches foresight. You learn to plan months in advance, to anticipate seasonal changes, and to prepare your colonies for the unexpected. This foresight is a skill that extends beyond the apiary. It becomes part of how you approach every project in life. The beauty of modern ecological beekeeping is that it rewards observation and careful planning, not for shortcuts. When you respect the rhythm of nature, your colonies grow stronger, your honey is richer, and your work becomes more meaningful. And through it all, you begin to understand one profound truth. The best results are not measured in kilograms of honey, but in the health of your bees, the balance of your land, and the strength of the ecosystem you help sustain. Every season reinforces this lesson. Every success reminds you why you started. Every challenge teaches humility and resilience. If you are still here, listening and learning, then you are already walking the path of a responsible, modern, and ecological beekeeper. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a like to continue growing with this community and to stay informed on the next steps in your journey. As the seasons pass, your perspective continues to deepen. You no longer see each hive as a separate unit, but as part of a living, interconnected system. The success of one colony depends on the health of the others, the diversity of surrounding plants, and the care you provide to the land as a whole. You notice subtle shifts in nature, early blooms, late frosts, or changes in local insect populations. These signals teach you adaptability, patience, and humility. You learn to act deliberately rather than react impulsively. Every decision is informed by observation, experience, and respect for life. At this stage, you also begin to understand the intangible rewards, the quiet moments in the apiary, the gentle hum of healthy bees, the satisfaction of seeing colonies thrive under your care. These are the true markers of progress. The honey you harvest is no longer merely a product. It is the result of harmony between human effort and natural processes. And now, as we approach the end of this talk, it is time to reflect. The journey of a beekeeper is ongoing, filled with lessons, surprises, and growth. What began as curiosity evolves into responsibility, awareness, and connection. You have learned that modern ecological beekeeping is not only a method, it is a way of life. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a like if you are ready to embrace this path. And stay tuned for future sessions where we will explore each aspect of beekeeping in more detail. The story does not end here, it continues in every hive, every season, and in every beekeeper willing to walk this path with care and dedication. As you step back and observe your apiary, you begin to see the bigger picture. Every hive, every colony, every flower, every tool, and every decision contributes to a delicate balance. Beekeeping is no longer a series of tasks, it becomes a philosophy. You notice how even small actions make a difference. Planting a few extra flowering plants increases nectar diversity. Leaving hedgerows intact provides shelter and habitat. Minimizing chemical use strengthens colonies and the surrounding ecosystem. These choices, repeated season after season, create resilience that lasts far beyond a single harvest. The lessons learned here extend beyond the apiary. Patience, observation, responsibility, and care become part of your daily life. You approach challenges with a calmer mind and a longer view. You understand that every decision has consequences, and that respect for life brings lasting rewards. And now, as this session comes to a close, remember this: the journey of a beekeeper is never truly finished. It is continuous, evolving with every season, every observation, and every choice you make. What matters most is the commitment to act thoughtfully, sustainably, and ethically. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a like if you want to continue learning, exploring, and growing as a modern ecological beekeeper. This is not the end, it is simply the beginning of a lifelong path filled with discovery, care, and connection to the natural world. Your journey has only just started, and every step you take will shape the future of your apiary and the life around it. As we draw this session to its conclusion, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for joining me here today. Your presence, your attention, and your willingness to learn mean more than you might realize. Beekeeping is a path that requires dedication, patience, and care, and taking the time to understand is the first step toward truly meaningful practice. We hope that this session has been useful for you. Whether you are a complete beginner or already have some experience, the principles we discussed today, observation, ecological respect, ethical practices, and careful planning, are essential foundations for any beekeeper. The journey does not end here. There is so much more to explore, and we are committed to providing many more sessions, each focused on a different aspect of beekeeping. In upcoming talks, you will learn in detail about selecting and managing the right type of hives for your environment, understanding and caring for different bee breeds, choosing and using the correct protective clothing and equipment, efficient and sustainable honey extraction and storage, legal requirements and best practices for a safe and compliant apiary, seasonal strategies to maximize both colony health and productivity. Each session will build on the knowledge you gained today, providing practical, professional, and ecologically sound guidance. We want you to feel confident in every step you take in your beekeeping journey. Remember, modern ecological beekeeping is about more than honey. It is about building a connection with nature, a relationship with your land, and a deep understanding of life itself. Every decision you make as a beekeeper resonates beyond the hive. It affects the environment, the community, and the future of the craft. So as we close this talk, I encourage you to reflect on what you've learned today. Think about your own apiary, your own land, and the ways you can apply these principles to make a positive impact. Small thoughtful actions create long-term change. Respect, patience, observation, and care are the most powerful tools you will ever have. And above all, remember that you are not alone on this journey. This community of beekeepers, learners, and nature enthusiasts is here to support you. By staying engaged, asking questions, and participating in future sessions, you will continue to grow your knowledge and skills. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a like so that you don't miss our upcoming P1 NCIs, which will explore every aspect of beekeeping in even greater detail. From hive management to advanced seasonal strategies, from ecological practices to legislation and safety, we will guide you step by step. Thank you again for accompanying us today. Your curiosity, commitment, and passion for learning are what make this work meaningful. We hope you found this session insightful, inspiring, and practical. Remember, the path of a beekeeper is long and evolving. It is filled with discovery, growth, and connection. And while today is the end of this particular session, it is only the beginning of a much larger journey. Stay tuned for our future P1NCIs. We will continue to explore, teach, and share everything you need to know to become a confident, responsible, and modern ecological beekeeper. Together, we can nurture not only our bees, but our land, our communities, and the next generation of beekeepers. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for committing to this path. We look forward to seeing you again in our next session. Until then, observe, care, and continue building your connection with the natural world. The journey has only just begun, and your role as a guardian of nature is already underway. Let's walk this path together, one hive at a time. Thank you, and see you soon in our next P1 Chia.